Racing is by far my favorite sport. I love watching it, I love reading about it, I love doing it. It doesn't matter what kind of racing it is. As long as I can see the drivers becoming one with their machines and battling it out on the track, I'm all about it. But some events are better than others, and most of the time it comes down to one factor that is more important than all the rest: the track itself. There are thousands of racetracks around the world, but what makes one great? Heritage is a big factor. Tracks that have a lot of history, like the Nurburgring, Le Mans, and the Monaco Street Circuit, get an automatic pass into the Racetrack Hall of Fame because of all the stuff that's gone down there. The pinnacles of motorsport were built at these hallowed grounds. Ironically, historic tracks don't even have to make good racing to be considered great. Monaco is notoriously narrow and difficult to navigate, but it's probably the most well-known race because of its history in Formula One. When people think of that series, they think of the glitz and glam of Monaco, even if the actual racing is a little boring, in my opinion. Location is another important aspect. If we took the Monaco circuit and threw it in the middle of a desert, it probably wouldn't be nearly as impressive or exciting to look at. Seeing the cars fly through the streets of a city is something to behold, and I think that goes for any street circuit. They're just naturally exciting races to watch.
Oh no! Oh, mayhem! And there's millions of dollars of damage here.
But street courses aren't the only lookers. Lots of tracks are in the middle of some of the best scenery in the world. Sonoma Raceway is in the middle of California wine country. The Nurburgring is surrounded by Germany's mysterious Black Forest. And at Japan's Fuji Speedway, you can see a freaking volcano from the track. This amazing scenery instills a sense of wonder and prestige, and just adds a whole other layer when you're watching. But what use are hills and mountains surrounding a track if the course itself doesn't match its environment? A huge factor in what I think makes a track fun to drive is changes in elevation. Flat tracks are kind of boring. Not that kind of flat track, that's cool. But tracks like Sochi and Yas Marina that don't offer any climbs or falls seem to be missing a dimension. Some of the most iconic turns in racing involve steep elevation. Take Eau Rouge and Raidillon at the Spa circuit in Belgium. This might be the most harrowing climb in all of motorsport. From the air, it's just a gentle chicane, no big deal. If this turn was flat, I wouldn't even be talking about it, but it's not flat. Coming down the straight out of turn 1, the driver has to hug the wall before diving left into the first half of the chicane, Eau Rouge. Hitting the curbs on the left, the driver then must immediately turn right to begin the ascent up Raidillon, getting as close as they can to the right-hand curbs without slipping on them. The driver then navigates over a blind left-hand kink, carrying as much speed as they can. Going from bottom to top lifts the driver 133 feet up. Spa is awesome. But Eau Rouge, am I even saying that right? But Eau Rouge isn't the only iconic hill. The Mount Panorama Circuit in Australia is practically a quarter climb and quarter fall, making it one of the most demanding tracks in the entire world. The S's at Road Atlanta is a chain of 3 downhill, high-speed sweepers that are a lot more difficult to master than they let on. While Eau Rouge is the most iconic uphill turn in the world, Laguna Seca in Monterey, California has the world's greatest downhill, the corkscrew. If you grew up playing Gran Turismo and Forza, then you've probably done this turn thousands of times. The rest of Laguna Seca is great, but this signature turn is why the track has been in like every racing game ever. As you make your way up the hill, you approach the left-hander. There are barely any visual markers that tell you where the rest of the turn is. You just have to commit. If you didn't lock up your brakes and go off, you take the left and then immediately start the right-hand drop, the equivalent of falling 3 stories. Elevation makes it one of the best turns in the world, and by extension, makes Laguna Seca one of the best tracks in the world. A track factor that is crucial for making a great race is passing opportunities. A track like Monaco is challenging enough on its own, but if there's no room to pass, not a lot of racing is going to go down. The same was true for this year's Formula One opener at Albert Park in Australia. If we don't count overtakes made on the first lap, there were only 5 on-track passes at this year's race. That's pretty bad. But what makes Albert Park so hard to pass on? Albert Park is narrow by comparison to other racetracks on the Formula One calendar, but that's not the only reason it's limited on passing opportunities. Australia doesn't have any heavy braking zones. Designing heavy braking zones are a quick and easy way to make passing happen at the track. If you follow Formula One, you might have noticed that there are a ton of circuits on the calendar that feature at least one huge straight into a tight hairpin. And that's no accident, because one guy is responsible for making that happen. Herman Tilke has been designing racetracks since the early 90s, and as of today, 8 of the current tracks in F1 were designed by him. You can usually tell it's a Tilke track if it has 1 or 2 45-degree turns, a very long straight, and 1 unique looking turn. Once you know his tricks, they're pretty easy to spot. His tracks are pretty similar, to the degree that drivers and critics alike have taken shots at Tilke for being too boring. One of the main criticisms is that Herman's tracks almost always have paved runoff areas, which don't punish drivers when they push too hard and make mistakes. Others say that Tilke designs are too cookie cutter and stray away from the natural design of heritage tracks like the Nurburgring, Imola, and Monza. Whatever your opinions are on his tracks, one thing that everyone agrees on is that they're some of the safest and most accommodating circuits on the F1 calendar. I can understand why people don't like Tilke's tracks. What I think some of them are missing is an X factor, something special that makes a track memorable. The X factor is probably the hardest to define, but you know it when you see it. I mentioned the Nurburgring earlier because it's the grandmommy of all racetracks. It's one of the longest in the world at 12.9 miles. It has 170 turns, and from the lowest to highest point, the elevation changes by 1,000 feet. Everything about the Nurburgring is big. Manufacturers and race teams bring their cars to the green hell to prove themselves and their cars. The unpredictable conditions make it the perfect testing ground. If you want the ultimate performance cred, your car needs to be the fastest around the ring. And that's why so many companies bring their cars there. To rule the ring is to rule the world.
One ring to rule them all.
Subscribe to Donut so you never miss an episode of WheelHouse. What's your favorite racetrack? Where do you want to drive? Let me know in the comments. Get a shirt at shop.donut.media. Follow Donut on IG at Donut Media. Follow me at Nolan J. Sykes. Wear your seatbelt. See you later.